Okay, good morning. We're on lesson 155, or Workbook of A Course in Miracles. I will step back and let him lead the way. And I'm not sure, perhaps this is where, in a sense, this may be the apex that we get to in the lessons at this point in time. When I read this lesson last night, I had an interesting occurrence. I felt the timeless nature of the lesson in direct relationship to what I have come to understand myself to be and how I function in the world. And in that moment, it was as if time stood still and I was in a condition of perfect timelessness where my experience was seamless in that sense. And I don't really know how else to talk about it, because as I read this lesson, I recognized in myself, what has been occurring and what is occurring now, and how I do spend my day and lead my life. And there's every indication of this lesson. And let me see if I could find the line. Let's see. Between these paths, and he's talking about it. If truth demanded they give up the world, it would appear to them as if it asked the sacrifice of something that is real. And that's for those who read this course and have yet to come experientially into the recognition that the world is an illusion, as it says in the second paragraph. You can say it conceptually, you can understand it conceptually, but until the experience comes to augment the practice and the concepts are just merely that. They're just other concepts that we base understanding on. We associate it in our mind in a particular way, and we give it an understanding. But without the experience, you can take no peace, you can take no solace in the words, because the words only are just other concepts that you're utilizing in defense against the unreality of the world, and in truth, the protection of the fact that it is real to you, yet the need to appear correct. Perhaps because this is something that you have a new identity based on. You've come into, you don't like the world, and yet you're not willing to give up the world. And this is a nice sort of spiritual concept that you can base a new identity on as you continue in the world, trying to be satisfied by the world, thinking that it has a way in which it supports you, and it absolutely doesn't. If truth demanded they give up the world, it would appear to them as if it asked the sacrifice of something that is real. Many have chosen to renounce the world while still believing its reality. That's what I'm talking about. They're going to give up the world simply because they don't like the world, and as a position against the world, not as a recognition of the fact that there is no world, because whatever has been required of you in your own understanding and undoing, you've loosed it from all you thought it was, and have seen it as the illusion that it has always been and it remains to be. Many have chosen to renounce the world while still believing its reality, and they have suffered from a sense of loss and have not been released. Accordingly, others have chosen nothing but the world, and they have suffered from a sense of loss still deeper, which they did not understand. Now, for many who try to use the concepts of the Course and thinking if you can get your ducks in order conceptually, you know what this Course is talking about, you'll think that perhaps there's, all pain is the same ultimately, but this is saying there's ways to go deeper into pain than you previously thought were possible. And in this illusion, delay in time is in fact tragic. And he doesn't say that with an attempt to, let's call it, alleviate the pain, because there is no world, and conceptually you could attempt to do that. So then you can conceptually think that you're not in the world and the pain is meaningless and doesn't mean anything because you're not in the world. That's not really the way this works, and you'll never heal your mind while you do that. And that's what this paragraph is alluding to. Yet between these paths there is another road that leads away from loss of every kind. For sacrifice and deprivation, both are quickly left behind. This is the way appointed for you now. You walk this path as others do, nor do you seem to be distinct from them, although you are indeed. So yes, as Jesus said one time of his disciples, they were chosen out of the world for him, not by him, but for him. He stepped back and let that which goes before us all lead the way. And they were chosen out of the world for him, perhaps for their readiness, perhaps for their willingness. Yet they were chosen out of the world for Jesus. Thus, can you serve them while you serve yourself and set their footsteps on the way which God has opened up to you and them through you? I think this is very important in understanding the nature of what it is that we're given to do as we heal our mind and we accept our part in the plan for atonement. Just because we all have a part in the plan for atonement, that doesn't mean that we've all become consciously aware of that part and are playing it. The fact that you experience resistance, and your resistance to what's going on in your life, is a demonstration that you have yet to choose again, because you still think the world can be Israel and can cause you to sacrifice. Illusion still appears to cling to you that you may reach them. Yet it has stepped back, and it is not illusion that here you speak of, nor illusions which you bring their eyes to look on and their minds to grasp, nor can the truth which walks ahead of you speak to them through illusions, for the road leads past illusion now, while on the way you call to them that they may follow you. So the idea that there's no such thing as followers is ludicrous. It's not true. There are those who are given to you to follow with you the path that leads beyond the world. And there's a great line from a song by the Grateful Dead called Ripple. And the line is, to lead must follow. When you've learned to lead, it is because you understand what following is and what it is you follow. There's an incredible line here. And as I said, I haven't been through these lessons formally in a long time. And yet when I read them now, especially this one, this is why it was so timeless for me last night. it described exactly what I was given in a vision as to how this works. And I'd like to read that to you for a second if I could find it. All roads will lead to this one in the end, for sacrifice and deprivations are paths which lead nowhere, choices for defeat, aims which will remain impossible. All this steps back as truth comes forth in you to lead your brothers from the ways of death and set them on the way to happiness. Their suffering is but illusion, yet they need a guide to lead them out of it, for they mistake illusion for the truth. I need to find this line, because it's true. I was once shown, this is a couple of years ago, about being on this path with my brothers and walking arm in arm with a brother, and it doesn't necessarily, and I've learned, it doesn't necessarily mean that you and that brother will be together in the sense of physically in space and time. Yet it does mean that I'm on that road with my brother arm in arm, and we are walking this path together. There was a teaching from the Theosophical Society, and it talked about the externalization of the spiritual hierarchy, and the idea of hierarchy is much misunderstood because they have their own language, and they're not talking about a hierarchy in the sense of somebody being greater than another. They're talking about a hierarchy of accomplishment and fulfillment of the function within the plan. And they have this thing, they call it the inner ashram. And each one of these, the ascended masters, let's call them, that it has their own inner ashram. And people are working together without knowing each other. And some may come to meet each other and some may not. But they're all working, in a sense, from the inner plane, within the world of space and time, by the guidance of one of these master guides for the fulfillment of the plan of salvation within the world of space and time. And they work collaboratively, yet and at times they know not who they are actually working with, because they're working, in a sense, not as bodies, but as vibratory frequencies of light energy, as extensions of our Father, that utilize the body as a vehicle of communication and work within the world to bring about certain things miraculously so as to implement change, to allow a new heaven and new earth to begin to dawn upon everybody, as they may be a few steps ahead of those who are following along at a pace that perhaps seems to be much slower. Yet, since there's only one direction everybody's headed in, all in the same direction. I'm looking for this line because it is the way it is. It talks about as you step, the light lights up your path. And that's the way it was shown to me in a vision. And I forgot that it was in this lesson because it was so many years ago. But it was a perfect representation and showed me exactly what it is. And it was like a system of triangulation last night, showing me that I'm right exactly where I'm supposed to be. In a sense, it's a borderland of thought where the conversion comes naturally. And those who are given to me, it doesn't seem to matter what reason, what worldly reason they come into my life. There is a true reason that everyone is brought to me, and there's a true reason why we're all brought together in various, as Jesus says, constellations, human constellations of light, to help us once again become familiar with how we operate as souls in the creative reality of the kingdom, to get familiar with the true way of being. so that we can become trustworthy and trust ourselves and learn the lessons that lead us beyond the world of space and time. And we learn those not by stepping ahead, but by stepping back and let that which leads the way go before us and straight the way and narrow the gate. That's what Jesus taught 2,000 years ago. He was teaching it. He was teaching in a vernacular of parables for those who at the time were around him, just as he's teaching this in the vernacular of psychology, because psychology is so very popular in the world today. So we're utilizing a language that everybody is already using, and yet reassociating the words within that language to our journey home with God, so that everything becomes associated with the Father and creation, rather than anything at all being associated or identified as being part of the world of space and time, and therefore work as a distraction. When we see the world as what it is, it no longer has to distract us, and this is what this lesson is saying. When we come to see the world as an illusion, and in the last lesson, when we come to be able to operate in laws that this world knows not of, we are participating, as Jesus called himself, as a passerby. And yet there are those who see you out of the corner of their eye because they're looking for something else. And the attraction is there, and we meet up and we share our experiences, our strengths, and our hopes. We work together for a while in lessons that we all need to learn, yet we couldn't learn apart. And then perhaps we'll go our own way to meet again later on. It's all in the course. I will step back and let him lead the way. There's no more better way to live in this world than that way, because you live with you walk the way with the assurance of Christ in your heart and mind, and the unity of the sonship of our Father. And the joy that you experience definitely replaces the idea that there's things that we need, and yet as things that we need are required, the Holy Spirit will replenish them until we no longer have need for them. And our needs change as our mind is healed. We seem to need less and less as our life becomes more and more simple. And we enter into the flow of eternity and the flow of infinity. And we participate by partaking of the abundance of the kingdom. And the abundance of the kingdom can be made manifest in any way necessary here within space and time. And when it is, it's by the grace of God, not by the toil of man and the machinations of that which we think must be accomplished. Salvation is our one accomplishment here. And this is the way it's accomplished, by stepping back and letting him lead the way.